Hello and welcome, this is Noah with Nomad Gaming, and thank you for joining us for another video about the Marvel Champions LCG. If you are looking for a place to get new information on news, content, spoilers, deck building, strategy, and of course gameplay, hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with the content coming from our channel. Today we are going to have an exciting roundup of the spoiler season for the new Rise of Red Skull expansion, which is going to be hitting stores and hopefully our play tables this coming weekend. If you are ready to play this game and hear more about Rise of Red Skull, stay tuned and let's check out what is coming in this box. First, let's start with the Hawkeye hero. There are two heroes in this box. We'll start with Hawkeye and go through what we've seen spoiled for him. His alter ego is Clint Barton. He does have the weapon of choice. We've talked about this in an earlier news video in detail, but he has the action spend one resource of any type to search your deck and discard pile for Hawkeyes Bow and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck, limit once per phase. This is going to let us recur our bow. The bow is pretty essential because it allows us to play arrow events, which we will see in just a second. As Hawkeye, he's going to have the ability to exhaust to ready his bow, and then he has the stat line 1-2-1 for his basic stats. Hand size is 6 and 5 here, alter ego and hero, and he has 9 hit points, so he's a little bit squishy, but hopefully you're not taking a lot of damage on him and you are dealing damage with your attachments and your bow. So let's see what the bow does. Hawkeye's Bow is a 0 cost upgrade. It is restricted and you get +1 attack, and each of your arrow attacks gains ranged, which means they ignore retaliate. That's a cool new effect that is available in this box and going forward. The ranged keyword lets you skip retaliate, which can be very useful depending on what minions and villains you are playing against at the time. Hawkeye's Quiver is a 1 cost upgrade, and it says you may play arrow events attached to this as if they were in your hand, and then it has a hero action that you exhaust the quiver and search the top 5 cards of your deck for an arrow event and attach it face up to this card. This is great. It lets you cache up these arrow events in a separate place from your hand, so you can keep cycling through your deck, drawing, looking for things. You do really want to try to pull the arrows from your deck and put them here. Probably try to prioritize playing the ones from your hand first if you can, and then keeping these ones on the quiver for when you need just that specific arrow. There are multiple copies of the different arrows as far as we can tell in the signature pool, so this should be a fun way to manage the resources that we have for Hawkeye. It also lets you thin your deck down just a little bit so that you can have more consistency with your other signature cards and your aspect. Let's take a look at our signature ally, which is going to be Mockingbird, Bobby Morse. It's a 3 cost ally, 2 thwart with 1 consequential damage and 2 attack with 1 consequential damage. She's an Avenger Shield with 3 health, and she has an interrupt which says when the villain initiates an attack against you, spend 1 resource of any type to return Mockingbird to your hand. Prevent all damage from this attack. This card was spoiled by bad publicity as part of the spoiler month that FFG allowed several content creators to spoil cards for the upcoming set. Thank you to those content creators. I'll try to announce them here and then include some links down in the description so that you can give them some love and attention on their specific feeds and channels. Give your gratitude to them for helping bring these spoilers to us early and get us ready for the release of Rise of Red Skull. Thanks again to bad publicity, and let's take a quick look at the arrows that we're going to be able to play with here. A couple of these arrows were spoiled by other content creators. The cable arrow that you see here was spoiled by Hall of Cards, and the electric arrow was spoiled by the Alter Egos podcast. Explosive arrow and sonic arrow were given to us by FFG earlier in the release schedule. You can see here the cable arrow is a 1 cost event that exhausts the bow and removes 3 threat from a scheme, ignoring crisis icons. And then explosive arrow is exhaust the bow and deal 3 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with that player. The explosive arrow seems like huge value, possibly doing a ton of damage at one time, and being able to ignore crisis icons is also huge value from that cable arrow, can save you from losing the game at any given point. We've also, looks like we've got a mirror set of arrows on the electric and sonic arrow. They're 2 cost events. One is an attack event that exhausts, stuns an enemy and does 3 damage to it, but if it was already stunned you do 5 instead. And then the sonic arrow exhausts and confuses an enemy and deals 3 damage to it, but if it was already confused then you deal 5 damage instead. We're going to see there's a lot of stuff in this box that deals with status cards, so I think it's cool that these get bonus damage if you can't do the stun or confuse. Going to be really useful and interesting to see how we play these. Taking a quick look at one of our Nemesis cards, we got a Nemesis side scheme. This was spoiled by the card game Cooperative, and this implicates the Mockingbird ally. The Clint Barton player is going to search the deck, hand, and discard pile for Mockingbird, place her face up under this card, and then when this is defeated, Mockingbird returns to her owner's hand. So it was pointed out that this is an interesting way to recur Mockingbird. If this comes out, you can have her come from your discard to your hand, clear this, and get her back into your hand without having to wait to redraw her. It does have an acceleration icon, so you're not going to want it to hang around on the table for very long, but it does come in with base 5 health, or base 5 threat, sorry. And that's it's an interesting card. New mechanics, great new creativity from the FFG development team. Good work here, and thanks to the Card Game Cooperative for giving this to us. Our other hero is going to be Spider-Woman. Alter ego is Jessica Drew. She's introducing an awesome new play mechanic, which is the double agent ability on her card, which says choose 2 aspects instead of 1 during deck building, and then you must include an equal number of cards from those aspects in your deck. And then the action is look at the top card of any deck, limit once per round. So she'll give you some insight into what's coming from the encounter deck, or what's coming out of your deck, or what one of your buddies has on the table coming out of their decks. We've also got on the Spider-Woman side a base stats of 1, 1, and 1, but she has a superhuman agility ability, which says when you play an aspect card, she gets +1 thwart, +1 attack, and +1 defense until the end of the round. That's limit once per round per aspect, and we know that her signature pool is going to include aspect cards in it, so it is possible to get all 4 aspects played in a single round and get the 5/5/5 stat line on her, and then try to figure out ways to exploit or take advantage of those boosted stats. Let's take a look at her signature pool and see what we're going to be working with. Thanks to the folks over at iRebel for the Captain Marvel spoiler, and to the Teenage Mutant W Wordsmith for the Jessica Drew's apartment. Again, part of the content creators that were allowed to spoil cards for this expansion. Good work here. And let's see what we've got. Captain Marvel's a 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 consequential, 2 attack with 1 consequential damage. She's got 3 health, and she is an Avenger, and she's got a pretty exciting response. After she uses a basic power, you get to draw a card. So this is cool. Going to give you the ability to draw some cards and to get value out of her activations. Pretty fun ally here. Does have a wild resource also, but that's pretty standard for your signature allies. We've also got another apartment here. Jessica Drew has one, it looks like. She's a 1-cost support. It's a location, and she has an alter ego action on it that says exhaust the apartment and search the top 5 cards of your deck for an aspect card and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. This card is it's a ton of value. Probably the best apartment that we've seen. There are aspect cards in her signature pool, plus the aspect cards that we're putting into the deck, so you're gonna find something to add to your hand from this, and you get to pick what it is. So this is a really strong card, really cool ability, and gonna be a lot of fun to try to play and build around to try to exploit these mechanics with aspect cards and our Spider-Woman Jessica Drew hero. Taking a quick look at some of those aspect cards in the signature pool. Thanks to No Responsibility, we've learned about Contaminant Immunity, which is a 2-cost event superpower, hero action. Heal 3 damage from Spider-Woman and give her a tough status card. I think it was pretty well discussed in the community what good value and return is, and 3 health heal for 2 cost isn't bad by itself. But then adding the tough status card, which is going to stop the next attack from damaging you basically, is just huge value on this card for great cost. Plus you get the bonus boost to Spider-Woman's stats probably, and other things that she's going to be able to do to take advantage of the aspect cards. So this is really exciting. FFG gave us pheromones during the release information, or the spoiler information announcement about Rise of Red Skull. That's a 2-cost leadership and signature event. It is a stun and confuse for 2 cost, and that's on any enemy, so it's not limited to minions. It's going to let you do it to the villain, and that's value. Stun and confuse are awesome. Gives you the flexibility to flip if you want to. It is a hero action, so you got to be in hero form when you play it, but because of the confuse, you may be able to flip over, take advantage of some stuff in alter ego form, and then come back to hero form and take advantage of the stun. A lot of different ways you can play this and use it, and again get that value from her hero ability. Inconspicuous was brought to us by Make Your Peace Games. Thanks to them for bringing this out and talking about it already. Remove total of 3 threat from among the schemes in play for 1 cost. This is huge value. It doesn't get the bonus that Clint got on his 1 arrow where you can ignore the crisis icon, but 3 threat for 1 cost is pretty awesome, and if you finish off a scheme, you can put the rest onto another scheme. Splitting it up is extra powerful, and getting the bonuses. These cards are really, really good out of the signature pool with the aspects on them, so pretty fun. We'll see how these are going to play out. Let's take a quick peek at the non-signature aspect cards that are coming in the box. We've got a couple of allies for the leadership aspect that we know about. Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, was spoiled by FFG. She's a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart with 1 consequential and 2 attack with 1 consequential. She has 2 health and she is an Avenger, but she has this ability to exhaust and discard a card from your hand, and then you deal X damage to an enemy, where X is the number of printed resources on that card. This is going to be 1, 2, or 3 damage. Those printed resources are on the bottom left of the cards. But the interesting thing about this is that she's going to let you like cycle cards out of your hand that you weren't going to play anyway and you couldn't use, and instead of having to discard them for no value, now you could use Kate Bishop to get just some incidental damage from cycling those cards out and moving on through your deck. We've also got Goliath here, Bill Foster. He's a 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 consequential, or 1 attack with 2 consequential. He has 4 health, and he has a pretty awesome ability that he can get +4 attack until the end of the phase, but then at the end of the phase you discard Goliath. And this is max once per phase, which is an interesting line of text. We did have an error in our rules roundup that several people pointed out, and thanks to them for sharing that information. I missed this line of text in the rules handbook just in general, but max once per phase is a specific text line that is in the rules book that says that this means that it can only be done once per phase for the entire play group. It doesn't matter if Goliath leaves play and comes back. It doesn't matter if somebody else plays a different Goliath because yours is gone. The once per phase, the max once per phase, is a static effect that then affects the entire play surface, so you can't do this again with any iterations of Goliath. Jumping over to look at Black Knight. Goliath was brought to us by the Marvel Champions Monthly podcast. Thanks to those folks for bringing us great content and this spoiler. And then Black Knight was spoiled by the side scheme, and it is a 3-cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 consequential, and 2 attack with 1 consequential. Has the reminder star there that gives us a link to the text box, which says Black Knight's basic attack gains piercing. Discard any tough status card from the target before dealing damage. He's got 3 health, and piercing is a new mechanic that is really exciting. On player cards, this is going to give us a new way to manage and deal with those cards that are coming into play with those tough statuses by discarding them and still getting to do the damage from our attacks, which is incredibly good value. It's almost as if they're not even there, which I think is the purpose of the keyword. So pretty exciting. I like this. He's going to have a lot of value. Plus the artwork on this is pretty epic. So high five there, and thanks for bringing us that spoiler. FFG did also release team training in their original spoiler video. This is a 2-cost support condition, and it says play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Each ally you control gets +1 hit point. Excuse me, let's hit a drink right there. The +1 hit point is going to let us get more activation out of our allies. This is static, it's not going away. This is going to be pretty awesome. I think, being able to get extra activations out of a lot of your allies is helpful, and there's a lot of new strategies that you can take and different avenues with allies if you can have some extra health on the board. So great card, excited to play it. Let's take a look at some of the other aspects and see what we've got. Coming to us from 1-2 Punchboard spoiler release, we've got Spider-Girl Anya Corazon. That's a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart with 1 consequential, and 2 attack with 1 consequential. She is an Avenger. She has 2 health, and she has the response after you play Spider-Girl from your hand, stun and confuse a minion. Again, we've got status cards coming onto the table. This is limited to minions, but she's low cost, she's recursive, she's cool. Yeah, I think this is pretty awesome, and pretty excited to get this into some builds and see if we can take advantage of that, especially with some of the big mean minions that we've seen coming out recently and the stuff I expect to see in the new box. This Stun and Confuse is going to be useful even if limited to the minions. So cool card, pretty excited for it, and thanks to 1-2 Punch Board again for bringing it to us in the community. FFG had already given us Press the Advantage, which is a 1-cost event that is a hero action attack. It deals 2 damage, which 2 for 1 is a pretty okay value, not the best that we've seen, but it's good. And I mean, the second part of this though is showing us that we're going to be taking a lot of advantage of these status effects. If an enemy was stunned, or if that enemy was stunned or confused, draw a card. So this card replaces itself in that aspect. Also, cool note, the Black Panther art on this is pretty awesome. So great card, really good utility here. Gonna see it played, I think, in a lot of ways, and the replacement effect there, anything that says draw a card has more value than you think it has. So this is a great card to be able to have, and thanks for the spoiler on that, FFG. Tabletop Time Sinks brought us this one. This is Skilled Investigator, which is a 0-cost upgrade. It is a skill, and it plays under any player's control, max 1 per player, and then after a side scheme is defeated, exhaust Skilled Investigator to draw 1 card. We know that the box is going to have a side scheme sub-theme, that Red Skull's got his own side scheme deck, that there's a lot of side scheming going on in this, and some of the other encounter sets that we have already have a bunch of side schemes. So this seems like an auto include in a lot of Justice decks. It's incidental card draw. If you're playing multiplayer, play a play set of these and share it with your friends. Everybody gets the advantages of drawing cards when side schemes are eliminated. Artwork here is super cool again, but this card's good. I like it at 0 cost. I think we're going to want to play it and draw cards with it. Even though it's appears a little situational, particularly in the campaign box and in campaign play, this might have huge value. Speaking of campaign play, let's take a look at what the campaign we know is going to include in it. The new scenarios have been designed to play standalone or as a campaign. The campaign would have sequential playthrough, which would carry over prior outcomes that affect current and future scenarios. So this is kind of a cool new mechanic, a new way to play the game, stringing together multiple encounters to create a unified play experience. We've been told there'll be 2 levels of difficulty that include things like persistent HP and other effects that carry over to affect how well we've done. And then there's going to be a campaign book that will help us track the progress of our campaign. Assume that's going to be a PDF available also from FFG so that we can make more copies of it as we play campaigns. Based on what we know about campaigns that FFG's done in other LCG games, I would expect that there are cards like items and attachments and things that can be earned or found and brought into the game to affect us in future scenarios in the campaign. So this should be pretty cool. Excited to play it. Really, I mean, I think this is one of the more exciting things that I see in the box is the idea of campaign play. Really excited to explore that and to see how we do with different heroes and different hero pairings to try to go through that content. That's going to wrap it up for us today, folks. Thanks again for joining us here at Nomad Gaming for your update on the Rise of Red Skull, releasing later this week. Drop us a comment, tell us what you're excited about, what do you think about the new cards, what do you like, what don't you like, and what do you plan to build. If you've made it this far, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, like and share the video, and of course, turn on the notifications to stay up to date with what's coming your way. But until next time, folks, let's go game!